Okay, Unit 9, we're talking a lot more about quadratics. We actually just talked about this in the last unit. We looked at how to factor quadratics and how to get solutions. We're going to look more at solutions today, but we're going to look at how to do them in the calculator. So if you're watching this right now, you're probably going to want a calculator in front of you to work these problems. You can't do these without one. All right, so let's talk about quadratics. So quadratic function is not linear, okay? These quadratics are going to look like a parabola, okay? Just as a refresher, those parabolas usually look like a U or they look like an N, okay? So it says U-shaped graph of quadratic function. A quadratic, your highest degree, so your highest exponent is going to be a 2, okay? If you have anything higher than a 2 there, unless if there's a GCF, then that is going to be, if it's higher than a 2, it won't be quadratic. The parent function, and this is very important here, your parent function of a quadratic is y equals x squared, okay? Because you could have a function that was y equals 3x squared, or y equals 5x squared minus 1, or anything with numbers in it, but the family that a quadratic in is y equals x squared. If you think back to linear, the parent function of a line was y equals x. So you have to know the parent function here. We're going to look at vertex. Okay, we're going to look at what a vertex is. It's going to be the lowest or the highest point on a parabola. Okay, so if I draw two little graphs here, let's say I have a parabola that looks like a U. My vertex is going to be this point down here. Since that's the lowest point on the graph, that would be a minimum. If I look at a graph that looks more like an N, so here is my vertex, that's the highest point on my graph, so that would be a max. You're going to have to know min or max to be able to get these in your calculator. The axis of symmetry is the imaginary line that passes through the vertex, and it cuts the parabola into two symmetric parts. So if you look at these two little graphs I drew, your axis of symmetry is what cuts it in half. Okay, think about what kind of a line that is. It's a vertical line. If it's vertical, remember we think vux, which means your axis of symmetry, if you look right under here, axis of symmetry, it's going to be written as x equals. Okay, because it's a vertical line, it can't just put a number, you have to put x equals whatever it is. Okay, so we're going to be looking at all these pieces of these graphs and being able to find these in our calculator. All right, so first we're just going to look at a couple of graphs just on the paper. So it says find the vertex, max or min, and axis of symmetry. Okay, so on this first graph, here is my vertex. Okay, and the vertex, that's a point on the graph, so that's going to be an ordered pair. So my vertex here is 1, 4. That's where that point is. We have to decide, is this a min or a max? Well, it's the highest point on my graph, so this would be a max. My axis of symmetry is the line, the vertical line that's going to cut this in half. Remember, because it's vertical, it's going to be x equals. So my axis of symmetry is x equals, and what's the x value there? You can actually see that from the vertex. There's your x value, so it would be x equals 1. Okay, number 2, my vertex is right here, which would be at 1, 3. That's the lowest point in my graph, so it would be a minimum. Okay, and then my axis of symmetry, remember it's a vertical line. Because it's vertical, it's going to be x equals, and what's the x value here that it's going through? X equals 1. It just happened to be x equals 1 on both of these. It's not always going to be 1. Okay, now we're going to look at how to find these in our calculator when we have an equation. So we're going to, kind of hard to see right here, but we're going to type this equation in our calculator. Okay, so you're going to go to your y equals. If there's anything in there, clear it out. And then you're going to type this equation in, and make sure you type it in like you read it. So if you read that as a negative x squared, make sure you type in negative x squared. And then it is plus 4x minus 1. Make sure you type in minus 1. That's the way you read it. And then hit graph. Okay, your graph should look like this. If it does not look like this, go back to your y equals, double check that you typed the correct thing in. Okay, also your window may be different than mine. If you want your window to look like mine, you can hit zoom. It's at the top in the middle of the gray button, so zoom. If you hit 6 for standard, it'll get it back to this normal window that we're used to seeing. Okay, so if yours does not look like mine now, you definitely have something typed in wrong in your y equals. All right, now I'm going to calculate the vertex. Okay, so right now you need to decide, is this the max or a min? Okay, so right now I can see the highest point, my vertex is the highest point on the graph, so this is going to be a max. So I'm going to write that down because I'm going to need that to figure out where my vertex is. Okay, now these steps are on your paper, but you're going to hit second, trace. Notice it says calc above trace. And that's what we're wanting to do, is to calculate. Okay, now what did we say this was? We said this was a maximum. So you're going to hit number 4 for maximum. Okay, now here's where it gets a little confusing. Notice it says left bound. We need to get to the left of our vertex, and then we're going to get to the right of our vertex. So let me just draw in a picture of what this is saying. Okay, we have a graph that looks something like this. Here is our vertex. Okay, we need to get to the left, anywhere to the left of that vertex, and then we need to get somewhere to the right, anywhere to the right. All right, so right now where my cursor is, that is the left side. Now if you notice the ordered pair at the bottom of your window, that is where your cursor is. So if you don't see your cursor in your picture, look at that ordered pair that tells you where it's at. Then you may have to go left or right to find it. Okay, so right now I'm on the left side, so I'm going to press enter. Now notice it says right bound. So I'm going to go to the right, anywhere to the right of my vertex. Anywhere to the right. It doesn't matter how far to the right. And I'm going to press enter. It says guess. I need one more enter, and there is my maximum. So notice this says 2.000023. Yours may even say 1.9999999. Okay, but those are numbers that are really close to 2, so it's going to be 2. It's all kind of based on where you put your left and your right bound, but they all ultimately are the same number. Okay, so our vertex here is 2, 3. Just calculated our maximum for us, which means what is our axis of symmetry? Our axis of symmetry would be x equals 2. If I'm going too fast, just pause it or rewind or whatever. Okay, let's look at this next example. And I've skipped some that are on the notes, so if you're following along with the notes, I may have cut some out. Find the vertex and axis of symmetry for the graph of y equals -1/2 x squared plus 6x plus 8. All right, so here we go. I'm going to go to my y equals. I'm going to clear out what's there, and I'm going to type this in. Okay, so I'm going to type in, I always put my fraction in parentheses, so -1/2 x squared plus 6x, whoops, my plus sign didn't go in, plus 6x plus 8, and I'm going to graph it. Now we have a problem here because I know this is supposed to look like a parabola and it doesn't. It looks like a straight line. All that means is we can't see the whole picture. We can't see our whole parabola. So what we need to do is zoom out. So you're going to go to zoom on that top row of buttons, hit zoom. We want to zoom out, which is 3, but you have to actually press enter for it to zoom out. All right, and there we go. Now I can see my graph. Okay, I'm going to calculate my vertex. So to calculate it, I have to go second, trace. Okay, what was this in this picture? I'm going to go back to it so you can see. This was a maximum. So I'm going to hit second, trace. I want to go to 4, maximum. Now my cursor already popped up on the left side. I don't know where yours is. Mine's at 0.8. That's what it says at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter. Then I'm going to go to the right so I can get it on the right side of my vertex. And then I'm going to press enter, and then enter one more time. And there's my maximum. So it's my maximum, my vertex is at 6, 26, which means my axis of symmetry would be at x equals 6. Now, if you want to zoom back in, I would suggest do not press zoom in, because it's going to zoom in on where your cursor is. I would do zoom standard, number 6, and that'll get you back to your original graph. Okay, so that's how to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Okay, I'm going to skip these two at the bottom, or this one at the bottom, and I'm going to go to this slide. Now, domain and range, you're not going to always have these pictures in front of you. This is going to be based off your vertex. So you might want to write that somewhere. Based off my vertex, which we now know how to find in the calculator. Okay, but I need to find the domain and range of this. So let's talk about domain first. We know domain means x. I need to look at my x-axis and see where this graph starts and where it stops. Well, these arrows that I just added tell me it goes forever and ever to the left, and it goes forever and ever to the right. Okay, and what does it mean when every value is included? It's all real numbers. Okay, and I'm just going to do the symbol for that. All real numbers. Now my range, what does range mean? Range means y. So I need to look at my y values here. I don't have anything under my vertex. That's my lowest point on this graph. Okay, and I've taught y'all that look at how many boundaries we have. We have one boundary. If we have one boundary, we have one inequality. Okay, so my inequality is y. Where are all my y values? All of my y values are above that line, which means y is greater than or equal to, and what is my y value there? My y value is -6. Okay, that -6, that can come from your vertex. Our vertex here is 0, -6, and you can see everything is above that vertex. Okay, number 2, my domain. On these parabolas, your domain is always going to be the same. It's going to be all real numbers. Your range, remember, it is based off of your vertex. Here is my vertex, which looks like it's at 0, 9. I don't have anything above that. Everything is below, everything's under that boundary, which means my y's are less than or equal to 9. That's domain and range. If you do not have a graph in front of you, you will have to type the equations. Now, these didn't have equations because it was already graphed. But you would originally or normally have to type them in your calculator, graph them, find the vertex, and then you have to get your domain and range from that. All right, so I'm going to skip these two at the top. And we're going to get into now how to find solutions. Okay, we were finding vertex. Now we're going to find solutions. Remember what solutions are. Solutions are zeros, roots, and x-intercepts. Okay? We're going to be finding zeros in our calculator. That's what we're going to be looking for. But remember, these are actually their x-intercepts. So if you look at these 3 graphs at the bottom of this slide, how many solutions can we have for a quadratic? Well, thinking about on the last test, when you factored and you got solutions, how many did you normally have? We normally had 2 solutions. So if you look at this middle graph, that's normally what we did on our last test. We had 2 solutions. Okay? But sometimes you might have 1 solution. Notice this first graph only touches the x-axis once. Notice this last graph doesn't touch the x-axis at all, so there's no solution. Okay, so you might have 1 solution, you might have 2, you might have none. But to know that, you have to know that these are x-intercepts. All right, so here we go. We've got, it says to solve by graphing. That means it wants us to get the solutions. So I have -x squared plus 2x equals -8. Remember, on last unit, when we wanted to factor, we had to get it set equal to 0. It's the same thing here. To type it into your y equals, we have to get it set equal to 0. So I'm going to add that 8 to both sides. So I have -x squared plus 2x plus 8 is equal to 0. Okay, and I'm going to do this on my calculator, but I'm going to also plot some of these points on the graph just so I can talk about a couple of things with the zeros. All right, so I'm going to go to my y equals, clear out what's in there, and I'm going to type in negative x squared plus 2x plus 8. Now I lost a plus sign back here again. Okay, and I'm going to graph this. All right, so what I'm going to do, I want us to pull like maybe 5 points off of this graph and graph them on our graph on our paper. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to go to my table. So I'm going to hit second graph and go to my table, and I'm going to take some points off of this. Okay, so how about, notice at 0, 8, 1, 9, and then 2, 8, it goes up and then it comes back down on the y values. That means 1, 9 is probably my vertex. So I'm going to graph, I'm going to start with negative 1, 5. So I'm going to have negative 1, 5. I have 0, 8. I have 1, 9. I had 2, 8. And I have 3, negative 5. So this is what my parabola looks like. So if I were to ask you how many solutions do we have? We have 2. We've got one here, and we've got one here. Okay. So here's why I wanted to draw a picture of this for you, because you have to now retrack your brain. Okay, we're not looking for vertex anymore. We're looking at solutions. So we're looking at this orange point, and we're looking at this yellow point. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my calculator, and I'm going to hit second trace. What are we trying to find? We're trying to find the zeros. So I'm going to hit number 2. Okay, and I'm going to go back to my picture real quick so I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, what I want to do, notice we have 2 solutions. That means we need to calculate this 2 different times. I'm going to look for this orange solution first. Okay, now we're going to have to get the left bound and the right bound again like we did for the vertex, but you have to think about what you're getting the left and right of. You're getting the left and right of that orange point. Well, the left of this orange point would be everything over here. The right of that orange point would be everything over here. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to get to the left of my point. Okay, right now it's up by my vertex, so I'm going to have to bring it down and get it to the left of my first 0. Once you get it there, you press enter. Now I need to go to the right, and I press enter again. And then I'm going to go one more time, and that's going to get me my 0. So my 0 here is negative 2, 0. Okay, so my first 0 is negative 2, 0. On the last test, we would have said x equals negative 2. Same thing. Okay, now I'm going to get my yellow point, my yellow 0. But you have to think left and right is going to be different here. Because the left of this yellow point is over here. The right of this yellow point is over here. Alright, so here we go. I have to do this all over again. I have to hit second trace. I want the 0, so number 2. Now technically right now where my cursor is, I'm at the left. Okay, because anywhere to the left of this yellow point would be anywhere over here. Okay, where I'm making this red curve. That's all to the left. So I'm going to press enter. Now I need to get to the right. So I got a ways to go because I need to get to the right of that 0. Okay, so right now I'm on the right. I'm going to press enter, and I'll press enter one more time, and there we go. My next 0 is at 4, 0. Or you could say x equals 4. But it is a point on the graph, so technically it is an ordered pair. So really you got to make sure you know your left and right here. Okay, let's see what more we have to do here. Okay, let's go to this one. It says solve x squared minus 6 equals negative 5x by graphing. All right, I got to get this negative 5x to the other side first. So I have x squared plus 5x minus 6 equal to 0. Okay, make sure those are in the right order. It actually doesn't matter for the calculator. It'll figure it out, but you want to be in the habit of writing those in the correct order. So I'm going to go to my calculator, go to my y equals, and I'm going to type in x squared plus 5x and minus 6. I'm going to hit graph. And how many solutions do we have here? Notice we have 2 spots where this is crossing the x-axis. Okay, so I'm first going to get I always go from left to right, so I'm going to do my first solution that I see. Okay, so I'm going to hit second trace, and I want the 0, so number 2. I need to get to the left of that first point. Now, it does not matter which 0 you get first. You just got to know which one you're getting first, so you know which one you're getting the left and right of. Okay, so I'm to the left of that first one. I'm going to press enter. Now I'm going to go to the right and press enter. Enter one more time, and there's my first 0, -6. So my first 0 is -6, 0. Okay, now I'm going to calculate my other one. So second trace. I needed the other 0. Technically, I'm already on the left side, so I'm going to press enter. Then I'm going to get to the right. I'm going to keep going until I get to the right of that 0. Now you can see my cursor. Now I'm to the right. Press enter. Enter one more time. And there's our other 0, 1. So 1, 0. Okay, now one more thing I want to add that's not on here. If you ever see an E, a capital E, so you might see -1.0823 E56. Remember we've talked about that E before? It means scientific notation. That's saying that this number is really, really, really close to 0, but it's putting it in scientific notation instead. So let's say in the calculator it said x equals that and y equals 2. If you ever see this E, that means the whole thing is 0. So in this case, whether I'm looking for a max, a min, a 0, or whatever, the ordered pair would be 0, 2. Same thing goes if you see it in your y. So let's say I have x equals 3 and y equals 2.43E59, whatever. Okay, my ordered pair here, since I have that E, that whole thing means 0, so my ordered pair would be 3, 0. So just be on the lookout for that. You won't see it very often, but that's what that means.